that, we get a new week started here on KCMO. And in case you missed it, there was a group over the weekend who had a big rally in Kansas City. They call themselves the Patriot Front. So on Saturday, this group was seen organizing in downtown, and they wear matching outfits of khaki and navy with white face masks, hats, and sunglasses. Nothing says I'm a tough American patriot like hiding your face with a mask. I mean, the same people who are, I guess, mocking people during COVID for wearing masks now mask up for their own rallies? What is this? Like, it's the same thing when you think about the anti-Israel protests that take place around the country. They're wearing COVID masks. These guys are walking around downtown Kansas City on the right side of the aisle wearing their masks. They're all masked losers. Every single one of them is a masked loser. At least they, I will say, I don't know, they have some outfit that they seem to wear. So if you, it's not a COVID mask. It's like one of these, it does look like stretched women's underwear on their face. It's bizarre to me.
I may or may not know anything about it. I was like, wow, and jumping out of the U-Haul trucks. I'm glad they're busting them.
Yeah, I know. These guys jumping in and out of U-Haul trucks to get in and out of town. Why they were here, nobody knows. Their leader gave a rally speech at the World War I Museum and Memorial on Saturday. They came into town. The KCPD knew nothing about it. They marched about 150 people around Kansas City, and then they packed up their stuff and left. I don't know what the purpose of it was. No one seems to know. That's the other weird part of this. The media locally did not really have any information as to why they were here. They seem to show up in different cities at different times as like a counter protest to something going on, at least based on what I was reading through their Wikipedia last night. I really have no familiarity with this group, but Kansas City media loved covering this over a slow holiday weekend. You know, this was like right up their alley. It's always slow for the news cycle. You've got Memorial Day on Monday. They don't really want to talk about the Sarah Milgram story anymore. The young girl from Johnson County who got killed on Wednesday night of last week in Washington, D.C. for no reason other than the fact that she was Jewish. So this gives them a great out to drive up some, like, I don't know, crazy right-wing group shows up and marches around Kansas City. But this group appears to show up to different events as like a counter-protest to things happening around the country. They've been around for 7 years. They were a spinoff, I guess, from the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville a few years ago in Virginia. And, you know, their leader is this guy, Thomas Rousseau, I believe is how you would say his last name. He was a teenager when he founded the group. So I don't know. But to me, it's like, man, every time we get 100 people showing up for a protest in Kansas City, it somehow becomes a lead news story, depending on, of course, what their angle is. I mean, Emmanuel Cleaver had like 100 people out there on the lawn of the World War I Museum yelling about Doge and everything else. What was that, 2 weekends ago maybe? That Cleaver had like 100 people out there?
You mustard move.
And it wasn't a good look for him at all. It wasn't a good look for him at all. Same thing here. You got 150 goobers with face masks and sunglasses on holding upside down American flags and Confederate flags. And I'm like, why am I taking these people seriously? You know who I take seriously coming out of the weekend? You know who I like more coming out of the weekend? Is our Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. Now, if you did not see Pete Hegseth's speech yesterday, it was absolutely incredible. He spoke at Arlington National Cemetery to mark Memorial Day. And, you know, listen, obviously days like yesterday, you get speeches all over the country, people talking about what Memorial Day is about and what it means to them and what it means to this country. But Pete Hegseth gave a few-minute speech yesterday, and I watched it, and I thought to myself, man, this is the kind of stuff that every single American needs to hear. Like, I know most kids or a lot of school kids are done right now. At least, my kids are. I know that's the case for many kids right now across the metro. But listening to this 6-minute speech from Pete Hegseth on the meaning of Memorial Day, on why we have a day like this to honor those who sacrificed everything on behalf of their country, is the kind of thing that you can learn more about your country in this 6-minute speech than you could in a semester-long class. And I'm not going to play the whole 6 minutes, but I do want to play a couple of minutes for you here as we come out of a Memorial Day Monday into a Tuesday short week here on KCMO Talk Radio, just in case you missed this. And I understand there's a lot of stuff going on yesterday. You might have seen a lot of speeches, but I'll play 2 minutes here of Pete Hegseth and what he had to say during the Memorial Day ceremony that took place at Arlington National Cemetery.
Yet in America, with our great experiment in self-government, it is fitting that the most honored and closely guarded tomb in the land is that of an anonymous soldier of an unknown rank. When the first unknown soldier was selected for burial in 1921, he laid in state at the Capitol Rotunda. Throngs of Americans paid their respects. When the tomb was dedicated on November 11th, Veterans Day, the unknown received the Medal of Honor. It's a uniquely American tradition that we honor anonymous sacrifice above worldly greatness. While we don't know the unknown's identity, race, or creed, we know his story. It's the story of every soldier, every warrior. It's a simple story, as old as war. A young man with hopes and dreams and loves, who's called by his country, leaves behind his hometown, his parents, his siblings, his sweetheart, all that he knows, to go fight a war that he may or may not understand. He's called to go through hell and back, to sleep in a trench, to eat out of a tin cup or on the hood of a Humvee, to pray as bullets and bombs thunder around him, to fear for the bullet or the mortar or the IED or the RPG with his name on it. He does it willingly and stoically because he loves his country, his brothers in arms, and his family. This is the story of the unknown, the story of the fallen soldier who we have gathered today to honor. It is the story of the American warrior. He answered the call, fought, and died for this republic, the ultimate sacrifice of a free people. You see, the American soldier fights not because he hates what's in front of him, but because he loves what's behind him.
That was Pete Hegseth yesterday giving his speech at the Arlington National Cemetery to mark Memorial Day. It's about a 6-minute speech. We will share the YouTube video up on our social media pages on the KCMO Talk Radio Facebook and X accounts. You can watch them both there. And I would recommend if you want to watch it or somebody that you know needs to see that speech from Pete Hegseth yesterday, it was so powerful and he nailed it. And it didn't take him 50 minutes. It took him 6 minutes. One of my big beefs with politicians is that their speeches seem to get longer and longer and longer, and less is more. And Pete Hegseth just knocked that thing out of the park yesterday. They don't hate what's in front of them. They love what's behind them. And for too many Americans in 2025, they don't love what's behind them. I didn't serve. I know many of us did not. We honor those who did serve. But you think about how many people in this country do not love what is behind them. And that is the thing that has us broken today as a country more than anything else. Do you love what is behind you in the United States of America? Of course, there are examples upon examples in this country of people who love this country so much, they love what is behind them so much that they sacrificed everything. That's what Memorial Day is all about. But even those of us, of course, who didn't, thank goodness, didn't have to sacrifice everything. Do you still love what is behind you? And that is the question that I think every American needs to ask themselves coming out of Memorial Day weekend. Coming up on KCMO Talk Radio, there will be a big announcement today at 10 o'clock from one of our two governors, and it will play a role in what the future of our region looks like. We'll tell you about it next on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. We're back on a Tuesday morning, streaming live right here on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
Hey, it's Kevin Kietzman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
10 o'clock this morning, there will be a press conference at the state capitol on the Missouri side, Jeff City. Governor Mike Kehoe holding a press conference to announce details regarding a special session. This is an event that will be open to the media, and we are expecting to hear from Governor Mike Kehoe about his plans to bring back the legislature, that would be the House and the state Senate, to get legislation passed to try to entice the Chiefs and the Royals to stay on the Missouri side of the state line. Now, this was announced yesterday. We're trying to get the governor on the show tomorrow after this announcement comes down at 10 o'clock today. The question really becomes, will the legislature play ball? No pun intended. Will the legislature play ball? The question that people have down in Jeff City is whether or not the governor will make the House of Representatives, the House side of the legislature, pass House Bill 19. That is the bill that we were telling you about a couple of weeks ago that ticked off a lot of the senators. That was part of the reason that they did not want to pass funding for the Chiefs and the Royals, which had passed the House but not the Senate. And the Senate basically closed up shop a couple of weeks ago and said, we're done. We're not going to go ahead with this, and we are going to basically go home without passing any money for the Chiefs and the Royals. Part of the reason is that the Senate was ticked off that the House did not pass this about $500 million in infrastructure funding. So you've got that side of the equation here as well. And if the House doesn't pass, if Mike Kehoe does not ask his own House to pass this House Bill 19, it is going to be very difficult to get rural Republicans in Missouri on board with the idea of spending potentially hundreds of millions of dollars on funding for the Chiefs and the Royals. If Mike Kehoe can get both of those things done in a special session, which according to the people I talked to, he can, then he's got a shot to get the Chiefs and the Royals funding. But if this is a standalone special session exclusively about the Chiefs and the Royals, it is going to be very difficult for him to accomplish. So he will make the announcement this morning at 10 o'clock as to what that special session is going to be about. But then over the weekend, I saw this in the Kansas City Star. It was actually a pretty good opinion piece. Guest commentary by a guy named Sam Burnett. He wrote here, I love the Royals, but Kansas City should not subsidize billionaires. He says here, and starts off the article, I went to look at some new golf clubs the other day. My game has really been coming along, but the latest technology behind forged iron clubs is quite amazing and might take me to the next level. The only problem? Golf clubs are expensive, and those really weren't in my budget. Only this was no problem at all because I figured I'd just call John. John Sherman's office. Good morning, I said. May I speak to Mr. Sherman, please? He's not in this morning. May I ask what this is regarding? Sure, I said. I don't know John. He doesn't know me. But he's asking me and all my neighbors to subsidize his hobbies, so I'm just asking for the same from him. I'm at the Golf Galaxy checkout with a new set of irons. How would Mr. Sherman like to help me pay for these? The author goes on the note in the Star. See how ridiculous this situation is? I didn't really call Mr. Sherman's office. I wouldn't know how to, and that's okay since I don't really want to ask him to pay for parts of my golf clubs. If I want to play golf, it's on me to save my own money to do so, or seek my own form of subsidy by asking my wife. Similarly, if John Sherman wants to own a Major League Baseball team, and I'm glad that he does, he needs to pay for his own toys. Asking the residents of our city, our county, and our state to help subsidize ventures that will be owned and operated by professional sports franchises making profits is offensive. The article goes on to note how there are obviously years of economic analysis that share that these public subsidies of stadiums are not an effective form of economic development. All that's true. Here's the kicker. Here's the question. And this is something that even Patrick Tuohy can't answer. I'm not lobbying for states to go out there and start bending over backwards for pro sports teams and having an arms race with the public taxpayers' dollar. I'm not advocating for that or lobbying for that. The one difference, the one thing in this analogy with this guy's golf clubs that doesn't work is how much civic pride actually comes from a sports team, and how do you put a monetary value on that? The pride that this town has had for decades, but certainly for the last half a decade in the wake of this Chiefs run to multiple Super Bowls and winning multiple Super Bowls, is something you can't really put a price tag on. What is the price tag on Sunday Night Football showing shots of the Kauffman Center and downtown Kansas City in the plaza? What is the value in that for Kansas City? There have not been any studies done on this, so we don't really know. But that's the one part of this entire story with these two sports franchises that the guy doesn't seem to, or that the analogy doesn't work with, like, hey, will John Sherman buy my golf clubs? I get what he's going for there, and in a purely black and white sense, it may work to a degree. But this guy having new golf clubs does nothing for his neighbor when it comes to civic pride. It doesn't get Mark showing up to work every day in a hoodie with this guy's face on it because he's got a new pair of golf clubs.
Exactly.
Just doesn't work. What are you wearing today there, Mark? You got a Chiefs hat on? You got the Super Bowl hat on?
Girl dad.
Just a little girl dad hoodie. Very nice. You look great there, my
Family
man.
man.
You look awesome.
She's a real beauty.
That's right. You're looking good today. So that's the part of it, that whether it's the Chiefs staying in Missouri, the Royals staying in Missouri, or either or both of these teams going to Kansas, that part of the civic pride calculation is something that nobody has been able to actually put a finger on and put a price point on. But it is real. And clearly that's why Mike Kehoe is leaning into this today and will call the legislature back for a special session that is going to happen in the month of June. Why the month of June? Because the deadline for the Star bonds that will not be extended in Kansas is coming up at the end of June. So that special session will be happening in the next couple of weeks. Coming up next, why did a KU student sue KU? It's so bizarre. We'll tell you coming up.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
So let's just be clear. Yes, you have free speech in this country, but it doesn't mean that you have unlimited free speech when it comes to your employment. And that is a distinction that, frankly, more Americans need to understand. 634. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Glad you're back with us starting the short week on KCMO 95.7 FM. So the University of Kansas is being sued by a former student who says he was fired after speaking to reporters about the elimination of gender-inclusive housing at his on-campus residence hall. So this student is a trans student. The lawsuit was filed in U.S. District Court in KCK on behalf of Anthony Alvarez, who recently completed his junior year at KU. And just so you know, this student does not have a leg to stand on. And I'll explain that here. Alvarez alleges he was fired in March for violating his employment agreement when he was quoted in an article back in February in KCUR. That is your local National Panhandler radio affiliate. And the article on KCUR was titled, KU Students Protest Housing Changes They Say Will Harm Trans and Non-Binary Residents. This is KCUR intel in a nutshell. This is like, they just love stories like this. They're weirdly obsessed with them. So the complaint accuses KU of violating Alvarez's free speech and of retaliating against him. So in the article, Alvarez, who is transgender, expressed frustration with KU's plans to get rid of a gender-neutral bathroom in the dorm and to prohibit students there from sharing dorms with people whose gender on file with the university is different from their own. KU's website defines gender-inclusive housing assignments as, quote, a housing option in which two or more students share a multiple occupancy space in mutual agreement regardless of the student's sex, gender identity, and or gender expression. See, this is a classic example of you cannot win the woke war. KU tries and tries and tries to prove how woke it is. And even then, they end up getting sued by a trans student over a alleged free speech issue. Think about that. At KU, this is not Hillsdale College. This is University of Kansas. Mark, you should have worn your KU hoodie today. That would have fit in well for the story. Dozens of students protested the changes, which were announced in a February 5th email to Grace Pearson residents. This guy Alvarez, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I don't know what Alvarez is, but Alvarez was one of 3 trans students quoted in the KCUR article. Alvarez says he was speaking as a trans person who would be affected by the policy, not speaking as a representative of the university. See, that's not how it works. You cannot go into the media and trash your employer and then be like, wait, I have free speech. You can't do that. No, yes, you have free speech to literally in this country say as you please, for the most part, right? I mean, you can't go yell fire in a crowded theater, but you can, for the most part, say whatever you want. We got this Patriot Front group patrolling Kansas City and jumping in and out of U-Hauls over the weekend. So, yes, you have free speech in America, but you don't have the right to trash your employer to the media and then sue your employer or your former employer by alleging you violated my free speech rights. I don't know where this lawsuit ends up, but I hope this thing gets thrown out as quickly as possible. And just to be clear, for those of you wondering, KU did not eliminate gender-inclusive housing at all dorms. But they advised the students in this Grace Pearson building who want to retain gender-inclusive assignments should apply to a different scholarship hall for the 2025-2026 school year. They were basically just saying to these kids, hey, if this is how you want to live, apply to a different residence hall and you'll be okay. And this Alvarez character, who is a resident assistant for KU, basically calls out KU's policy and then cries that he got bleep canned by the school. It's like, buddy, you don't understand. That's not, you don't just get to call the shots as you see fit, okay? You've got to play ball with your employer. If I went to the Kansas City Star and started trashing Cumulus Media for things that they might have done in the building that I disagreed with, they would fire me, and they should fire me in that scenario. They don't have to employ me when I trash them to other media, and then I'm going to sit here and say, oh, you violated my free speech. Yes, and they have the free speech rights to fire my butt. That's what this guy does not understand. I love how these woke turds love free speech. They love everything that America offers until it impacts them, and then they don't even understand how to utilize things like their rights to free speech to their advantage. They don't understand it, and they never will understand it. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO. Let's go to KCK. Ashley is there. Hey, Ashley, you're on KCMO. Good morning.
Hey, this is just typical leftist behavior. No matter what we do to try to appease them, it's never going to work because they want to live their lives angry. And it's just going to be the way that it is. It's why people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton still have a job. It's why kids like this are just going to keep living their lives. And the sooner that we realize it, and the sooner that the left and actual logical people on the left, who there actually are a few, I've had conversations with them, realize it and start turning away from this woke behavior, the better off that we are going to be. If not, if these people get control, it's going to be the demise of our country. They have to have a reason to be angry no matter what you do to try to appease these people, have a gender-neutral bathroom, change the rules in the dorm. It's never going to be enough. You give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. It's just nothing is going to work for them, and it's absolutely ridiculous. But this is the way they can stay in power because they keep their constituency angry. And that's all that they're going to do.
Thank you, Ashley. There's always got to be a next here in all this, and that's exactly right. There always has to be some kind of victim mentality. There always has to be something about everyone's out to screw me, and that's not the case here. KU has buildings for students on campus who want to be in a non-binary situation when it comes to housing that will accommodate that. But this individual, this Anthony Alvarez, who got fired from his job, her job, I don't know. It's too early on a Tuesday morning to try to figure that part of it out. But you cannot be a resident assistant, which basically means you are a KU employee, and then trash KU's new protocols, and then expect to continue to keep your job, and then file a lawsuit when you don't in the name of free speech. You just can't do it. And the broader point there is a good one that Ashley's making. This forever world of I'm a victim, woe is me, look at me, I'm getting screwed, everyone's out to get me. It's like, no, you would have kept your job if you just kept your mouth shut. Don't talk to KCUR. I promise you, they're not looking out for your best interest at all. 913-408-7957. That is the text line and the studio line here on a Tuesday morning. Pete, if you want to trash your employer, shouldn't you always start out your sentence by saying, with all due respect, that's right.
Yeah, you got to qualify it.
Yeah, you got to have the qualifier. That's well done. With all due respect, you guys are transphobic at KU. And KU's like, you've got to be kidding me. But to Ashley's point as well, give an inch, they're taking the mile, no matter what you do. I mean, when KU's getting sued for not being sufficiently woke by somebody who was working as a resident assistant, who they then fired for talking to the media poorly about the university's new policies, you literally can't win. That's why you'd hope like heck some of these universities would wake up and smell the roses. Coming up, the 6 at 6. Top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour we'll get to here on KCMO Talk Radio. And then it's our buddy Steve Moore. He was on Fox News yesterday. You might have seen him there on Memorial Day morning, talking about the new tariff war now happening with the EU. That got delayed yesterday. So where does that stand? 6 at 6, and then Steve Moore coming up on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Dave Ramsey here, and you're listening to Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now airing on FM at 95.7.
649, welcome back. Glad you're here, starting off a shortened week with us on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. Let's do it that time of the morning.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on 95.7 KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
First up, we have got Mike Kehoe holding a press conference today at 10 o'clock. Governor of Missouri set to announce a special session that we believe is going to be tied to funding for the Chiefs and the Royals. The legislature is expected to revisit an amendment to Senate Bill 80, which would establish basically a new tax credit program for stadium construction, and also House Bill 19, which is the $500 million funding package that was scuttled ahead of the constitutionally mandated budget deadline. It is believed that if the House passes this House Bill 19, that is $500 million in infrastructure, it becomes a much easier hurdle for the Senate to pass the funding for the Chiefs and the Royals that the House already passed. So the House has to do its job on one piece of legislation. The Senate has to do its job on another piece of legislation. And that is how we potentially end up in a situation where Missouri passes this bill that will incentivize the Chiefs and the Royals to stay in the state of Missouri. Mike Kehoe will have more on that in a press conference 10 o'clock this morning, and we'll try to get the governor on the show tomorrow is the plan there.
Number 2.
Next up, let's go to the global stage. Russia is intensifying its attacks on Ukraine. So we have seen this happen over the weekend. Trump expressed his frustrations with Putin on Truth Social yesterday. Russia unleashing yet another massive aerial bombardment aimed at Ukrainian cities and towns before dawn yesterday, pressing its advantage as the United States continues to try to remove itself from the conflict and diplomatic efforts to end it. 355 Russian drones swarmed the skies across Ukraine, reports the New York Times, and bombers unleashed 9 missiles, according to Ukraine. Now, this comes following the criticism by President Trump of President Putin, who Trump accused on social media of going absolutely crazy in his bid to conquer Ukraine. So this thing is getting messier. There is very little evidence at this point that Putin actually wants a ceasefire and Putin actually wants some kind of peace in the region. And that is obviously a dangerous situation, not just for Ukraine, but then Trump's trying to end this thing. Trump desperately wants to end this thing, but he's losing, rightfully so, his patience with Vladimir Putin. So we'll have to keep an eye on how that plays out, especially in the days ahead.
Number 3.
Next up, we've got thieves in the Brookside area. Fox 4 reporting over the weekend that businesses in Brookside were broken into early Sunday morning, and they were targeted for a lot of their technological items. So TVs, computers, anything technological of value is where the break-ins happened to take place. This was early Sunday morning, and you had one building in particular, the Zwillow Properties, owned by Joe Zwillenberg, where they lease out office space on the second floor of that building. Some of his tenants were hit by thieves on Sunday morning. Also, Hemp House, 39th Street in Midtown, had boarded up doors. Employees say that their security cameras caught thieves getting out of a white truck at that same time over the weekend. So the property crime issue continues to be a headache across Kansas City as you have a KCPD that's trying to stem not just violent crime, obviously, and get the homicides under control. You've got the entertainment districts that are getting more attention now in the wake of the ATV dirt bike drama that's taking place in those parts of Kansas City. You still have property crime becoming way too common and way too routine in parts of town where you have nice businesses trying to operate. And thankfully, these local business owners are not shying away from bringing attention to this issue. Because even as of like a year ago, a lot of these business owners were like, don't talk about it. We don't want to bring attention to this. It seems like that is ended, and I'm glad that that has ended because we need these business owners to speak up, and we need them to be basically going out there and saying to the local media, this is happening, and in too many cases, it's not getting better.
Number 4.
Did you see Emmanuel Macron get shoved by his wife in a viral clip over the weekend? They were walking off of a plane, and all you see is Macron, the president of France, get shoved in the face. Macron is denying that he and his wife Brigitte had an altercation after a viral video promoted by Russian state media and French far-right accounts, I'm reading this from The Guardian, appear to show her pushing him in the face as they prepared to get off a plane in Vietnam. The video was shot by an Associated Press camera operator, and it shows the French president appearing in the doorway of the plane at the start of a visit. His wife's hand appears to shove him, causing him to step back before recovering, looking at the crowd, and waving. Brigitte Macron's body is not visible, and her husband told reporters afterwards the gesture was playful. I don't know what happened, but it does not look playful. When's the last time you saw a wife facepalm her husband and say it was just playful? I mean, this is like full face right into the nose and the mouth area. It doesn't look playful to me. The way that Macron reacts suggests he was caught off guard and it wasn't intended to be playful. That's my read on it. I mean, you may have a different read, but that's my read on it. I'm not buying this Macron, just playful with Brigitte Macron, just based on the video itself. But you got to dig it up, and I'll share it on my social media, my personal account. That way you can see it there, and we don't get the station in trouble. You tell me on X. I'll share it at the break here, whether or not you thought that was playful at Pete Mundo.
Number 5.
Well, the Royals are continuing their series here after yesterday starting a fresh series against the Reds. They lost that 7-4 at the K. They continue tonight at 6:40, first pitch out at Kauffman Stadium. Been a rough stretch for the Royals. They've now lost 3 of their last 4 after dropping 2 of 3 against the Twins in Minneapolis over the weekend. So trying to get back on track against the Reds tonight.
Number 6.
And last but not least for the 6 at 6, it is the final week for Carolyn Long at KCTV5. 30-year anchor there. Her co-anchor, Brad Stevens, joined us for the Feature Friday segment on Friday. If you missed that, it's up on the podcast. She has had a tremendous career in this town, and we are grateful that she is spending some time saying goodbye to Kansas City in what will be her final week on the air. Coming up, Steve Moore is going to join us, former economist with President Trump, on the new trade wars with the EU. Where does it stand next? He may be right. He may be crazy. I don't know what's going on with Trump and these tariffs. We're trying to make sense of it. 7:05. Good morning. Glad you're here on KCMO Talk Radio. So last week ended with Trump going to tariff war with the EU, but then it got delayed to July 9th, these 50% tariffs against the EU. Steve Moore is here. He is a former economic advisor to President Trump during term 1.0. And now he's still busy with the Heritage Foundation. You see him writing in the Wall Street Journal, and he is the co-founder of Unleash Prosperity. So, Steve, I saw you yesterday on Fox News. As always, you don't rest, my man. You're always working. What are you hearing right now on where this tariff war goes from here?
Well, first, I mean, this last week or so has been a very good week for President Trump. We got the tax bill through the House, which was a huge hurdle to get over, passed by one vote. But that means that the chances of Trump having a bill signing ceremony sometime this summer is very, very high, and that's essential for the economy. Remember, if they don't get that tax bill done, then the average American will face a $2,000 to $3,000 tax bill next year on top of what they pay now. Incidentally, every single Democrat in Congress voted against the Trump tax bill. I'm shocked by that. So now we have this announcement that came, I think it came on Thursday or Friday, that the Europeans want to negotiate with Trump on the tariffs, which was a big advance in terms of getting a fair deal with the Europeans. You know, they impose a lot higher trade barriers on our goods than we do on theirs. It's not a level playing field. And the Europeans have finally, waved an olive branch to Trump, and this is all good news. So I'm feeling like, by the way, I think the markets are going to open with a big advance today. I think right now the futures are up like 400 points. So it's all good right now. Trump's on a roll.
So with that being the case, then, you're right. It looks like we're going to get that tax bill through here, hopefully by July 4th.
Big
That's the target.
It's
big and beautiful, but it looks like it may have some hurdles in the Senate. So what are you hearing on the Senate side with that?
Well, you're right. There are hurdles in the Senate. I mean, the problem is the Republicans are all over the map. This is a good bill. It's not a great bill. Okay, not a great bill. Okay, I mean, it's not a great bill. It's a good bill, though, and it has to pass because we can't allow taxes to go up by $4 trillion next year. There aren't enough spending cuts in this, as you know. We've talked about this in weeks past. That we're running we're losing $2 trillion a year in the federal level, $2 trillion a year elections. But the cuts are actually pretty lame, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We're over the next decade, the federal government is supposed to spend roughly $85 trillion, and under this budget, the budget will rise by $83 trillion. Oh my God, the sky's going to fall. The world's going to come to an end. Oh my God, everybody's going to lose their health care coverage. I mean, I'm sure you've seen these crazy headlines, like everybody's going to be thrown off Social Security, Medicaid, and all this stuff. It's all just a big lie. If anything, the cuts are way too small, not too large. But so you have some Republicans, like my friend Rand Paul of Kentucky, and Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, and a few others who say, look, we got to cut a lot more out of this budget if we want to avert a fiscal catastrophe. And then you have others, oh no, we can't cut any of these programs. They're all sacrosanct. So there's a fight about how much to cut. And then there are some elements of the Trump tax. There's a big fight you may have been following about the state and local tax deduction. Now, this is just a big giveaway to very rich people in very blue high tax states like California, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, my home state of Illinois. It wouldn't really affect people living in Missouri or Kansas. But this was because there are about 5 or 6 Republicans who represent blue states in the House. They voted. They had to raise that. So I don't like raising the state and local tax deduction. I don't think anybody should be able to. You shouldn't be able to deduct your state and local taxes. All you're doing by having that deduction is encouraging states and localities to waste more money.
I totally agree, and that's something that we've touched on it a little bit on the show because it is a hang-up because you have these blue state Republicans who are basically holding the bill hostage over this. So
that's right. That's exactly right.
Is there any scenario where we get rid of this Or, I mean, roll back this SALT tax deduction and a big, beautiful bill gets through, or is something going to have to be in there to appease these folks?
There will have to be something in there, but what they got in the House bill was ridiculous. I mean, when I helped put that original tax bill together back in 2017 with Trump, we wanted a zero state and local tax deduction, and then we negotiated something with the blue state Republicans to say, okay, you can deduct up to $10,000. Then this year they said no. They said, no, 10,000 is too small. So we said, all right, we'll double it to 20,000. No, that's too small. Then we said, okay, we'll triple it to 30,000. No, that's too small. So in the House bill, it's $40,000. Now, by the way, nobody who's in the middle class or low income has more than $40,000 federal taxes income taxes they pay. The only people who do are really, really rich. So it's a big, big sop to, really, really rich people living in Palm Springs, California, and, Long Island, California, New York, and so on. So I think there will be in the Senate, they'll pull that back, so because there are no Republicans who represent blue states in the entire Senate. So they'll pull it back, and then they'll have to negotiate that. This is, how sausage is made.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And sometimes it's not pretty, but it is going to get done, and that's the main thing. So, and look, I think this bill is really important. Look, every small businessman and woman got a 20% reduction in their taxes, so that helps them employ more people. Our corporate tax rate went from the highest in the world to being average, so we weren't losing a lot of our businesses on taxes under the Trump bill. By the way, today, only 9% of tax filers have to itemize their deductions. We doubled the standard deduction, so most people, this was one of the greatest tax simplification measures ever. So now you just check a box. You don't have to keep those shoe boxes full of receipts on how much did I give to charity, how much did I give for this, that, the other thing. And so, that was a big deal too.
You're right. It was. Steve Moore is here, former economist with President Trump during term 1.0. So I want to ask you, since you were, as you noted, instrumental in this 2017 Trump tax cut bill that now is basically, hopefully, going to be extended at some point this summer, is there something that is not getting enough attention in this version of the bill that you think the average Missourian and the average Kansan should be knowing about?
Well, one of the most important things is what I just mentioned, is that, thanks to, it used to be about almost half of Americans used to have to itemize their deductions, and now only 9% do. So that's a big do you remember the alternative minimum tax? Remember that? We used to talk a lot about that. That was this really outrageous unfair tax where you'd have to fill out two tax forms. You'd have to fill out the regular tax form, and then you'd have to fill out something called the alternative minimum tax thing. And then you'd have to, whichever gave you the higher liability, that was the tax you had to pay. So it was a crazy system. Everybody hated the alternative minimum tax. Well, we almost entirely eliminated the alternative minimum tax. And very few people now pay this alternative minimum tax. But if we don't get this tax bill through in the Trump tax bill that I like a lot, we increase the child tax deduction. So giving a tax break for families with kids, because it's expensive to raise kids. Believe me, I got 5 of them. So, this is a bill that deserves to be extended. Is it a fantastic bill? No, I think the Senate will approve it. And yes, I'm going to say it again, we have to cut more spending. My God, Pete, there was a report by the federal government's own auditors. I'm not talking about DOGE. And by the way, I thought what DOGE did was fantastic in terms of revealing some of the waste. But this was the government's own auditors that found every year, almost $500 billion, $500 billion a year goes to fraudulent payments to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment benefits. People are just ripping us off. They're stealing money from these programs. So, we should be able to save $5 trillion over 10 years just by getting rid of the fraud.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And let's not forget, when everyone was doing doom and gloom back in 2017, what happened? The government brought in more revenues than it ever had in the nation's history.
Very good point. Yeah, you must be reading our hotline. By the way, people can get that for free. Just go to unleashprosperity.com and sign up. It's a free little newsletter we put out every morning with about 4 or 5 bullet items. And that was something we addressed the other day, that you're exactly right, my friend, that actually everybody's, it drained the treasury of money. No, it didn't. The tax revenues went up, and much faster than anybody expected. And why did that? Because when you cut taxes, good things happen for the economy. And so we got more people working, businesses made more profits, and we had more small businesses started, and that led to more money into the treasury.
That's right. Unleashprosperity.com. Click on the hotline tab at the top and pop your email in there. I love it, Steve Moore.
It's free.
It's free. Yes, and it's free. It's free.
Yeah.
Hey, we appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for being here as always.
All right. Have a great week, my friend. Take care.
You as well. Steve Moore, he was instrumental in that Trump 2017 tax cut bill, working for the president then. Now, of course, still actively pushing Congress to extend this tax cut, which will expire in January if it does not get extended, which hopefully the Senate does its job and this thing is passed and done by July 4th. Coming up next, has there ever been a league or a company trying to destroy its own momentum, like this league I'll tell you about next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM? There are still just a couple of days left to sign up for an outstanding event happening right here in Kansas City, where small and medium-sized businesses can learn about how to implement artificial intelligence into their business right now. If you're intimidated by the process and you're like, I don't need AI, or I don't even know where to start with it, well, this free AI and automation for business live demonstration is happening Thursday. It's in 2 days at Centric's headquarters right here off State Line Road. Centric has been training the technology workforce in Kansas City for a couple of decades now, and they've gotten into the AI space, and they're helping businesses like yours, small and medium businesses in Kansas City, understand how AI can work alongside your employees and make them better and more efficient. Not replace them, but work alongside them and give them the tools they need to stay ahead of the competition. All you have to do is go to centric.com/AI. That's CENTRIQ.com/AI and RSVP for the free event this Thursday morning at 8 a.m., May 29th. But you got to be on the RSVP list. There's only a couple of spots left. They had 50 folks show up for this event in March, and there is still, from what I understand, about half a dozen spots left to sign up. Go to centric.com/AI right now. That's centric.com/AI.
from the nation's heartland. It's Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
I have never seen a league try to destroy itself when it's been suffering for 30 years like the WNBA is trying to do. And I know that there is a push from some people to bring the WNBA to Kansas City. And if it was just about basketball, I'd say game on. I got 3 daughters. I think it'd be great. I would totally go to a game. I'm not going to go to a game when every single time the WNBA ends up in the news, it is about either treating Caitlin Clark, their star player, the main reason people care about the WNBA, like crap, or commemorating George Floyd 5 years after his death. I kid you not. I'm not making this up. This was over the weekend. Oh, my goodness. You had the Minnesota, I think they're the Lynx. Yes, the Lynx held a moment of silence for George Floyd over the weekend, 5 years after his death. And here is what one of their players had to say in this moment of silence. Nafisa Collier grabbed the microphone at midcourt to address the crowd. And it wasn't much of a crowd, but did address the crowd. And said this about George Floyd. Here we go.
Thank you guys for taking a minute to honor the life of George Floyd. George was a father, a brother, and a son. And his life, like every life, held meaning. His death exposed the holes that are still in our justice and criminal institutions today. And his 5-year anniversary reminds us that we must continue the fight against criminal, racial, and social injustices. We cannot stay silent. Every life deserves respect and dignity. Thank you.
Imagine going to a WNBA game, taking your daughter, your granddaughter, and a woke sermon breaks out. For some reason, Collier missed out on the 8 jail terms Floyd previously served. The fentanyl and methamphetamine an autopsy found in his system at the time of his death seemed to miss her talking points as well. They did not choose to address the hundreds of businesses and lives that were ruined during the riots that took place in the name of Black Lives Matter after the death of George Floyd across Minneapolis and, frankly, cities all over the country, including on a much more minor level here in Kansas City. So the WNBA has an incredible opportunity here. This league has been losing money and irrelevant for 30 years. They have a superstar in Caitlin Clark that people actually want to see, want to watch. And they're treating her like garbage on the court. And now on the 5-year anniversary of George Floyd, the biggest story coming out of the weekend in the WNBA is this. This is the last thing the league wants. It's like you've been running a business for 30 years and you finally get an opportunity to turn a profit to make money. And you're like, nah, I'm good. Nah, I'll pass. This is not what people want when they go to a sporting event. It's not what anybody's looking for. It's like if the PGA Tour in the mid to late 90s was like, yeah, this guy Tiger Woods is here and he's going to bring a whole new audience and our purses are going to skyrocket. But, we're going to treat him like dog poo and we're going to make it totally political as well while we're at it. Be like, what are you doing? That's insane. It's a horrible business idea. Well, the WNBA is doing exactly that. And they are missing a golden opportunity to mainstream this sport, make it palatable and interesting to people who never otherwise would have been interested in it. And they'll have no one to blame but themselves if things go totally sideways and bomb out. And this is just the latest example as to why. Coming up next, on one side of our state line, can they make you realize what is a male and what is a female? We'll explain next.
Stream Mundo in the morning on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
I wish this story was more or less made up, but it's not. The Kansas State High School Activities Association is declining to answer questions about a form asking for the sex at birth of high school athletes. Dave Traubert, Kansas Policy Institute, is here. It is the lead story on the Sentinel website. He's joining us on KCMO. Dave, I know it's not satire. I wish it were. What is going on here?
Well, good morning, Pete. No, I join you in that dismay. It's the form, and thank goodness there are citizens out there who are sharing this information with media. The form says there's an asterisk on sex at birth, and the explanation, it says, in cases of disorder of sexual development, designation of sex at birth may be delayed for a period of time until medical providers and family can make the appropriate determination. I'm not a doctor, but my goodness, sex at birth is not complicated. It is, they say it's a boy, it's a girl, as soon as the baby is born. It's why in the world would an activities association group try to inject itself into this? It makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. And I know you're a little more removed from having kids than I am, but having had 3 in the last 6 years, I can tell you they know right away what's going on, as do the doctors and the nurses. So this Kansas State High School Activities Association form that you guys have brought to the forefront, is this illegal?
Well, I'm a recovering accountant, so I can't say whether that's illegal or not. It may not be illegal because what it amounts to is a political viewpoint that's being expressed on here. You don't have to agree to this in order to play. I mean, it's just, what's the point? I mean, and it's just like this is an adjunct of the education issue that, education used to about teaching kids how to read and write. Now that's just kind of a side thought where education has become a combination of an adult employment system and a political indoctrination system.
Yeah. So who oversees this Kansas State High School Activities Association?
Well, it's a board of directors. It includes people like principals. I don't know how they're nominated, but there are principals, there are superintendents. There's a representative from the State Board of Education, Jim Porter. There's someone appointed, Delvin Strickler is a governor's appointee from Salina. These are mostly people working in education, and they make the rules.
Wow. So these are, okay. So now, I mean, this is something where you look at it and you say to yourself, will people abuse the system? Will we end up, despite what state law says, in a situation where you have young women in the state who are going to have to compete against somebody who is basically abusing this Kansas State High School Activities Association physical evaluation form? Is there anything on that front that you've been able to find out just yet?
No, but there's certainly the potential for it. I mean, it's kind of saying you get to decide. It's not sex at birth that the doctor said or the hospital said. It's what you maybe decided later as a parent. And that's what goes into the record. And then that's the basis on which you can play sports. We have a state law. The Fairness in Women's Sports Law says that girls and boys can only play the sports of their sex at birth. There must be separate facilities for boys and girls based on their sex at birth. Is this trying to get an end run around it?
Yeah, that's what I wonder as well. I mean, and then you end up with a situation where technically that person would be violating state law. And I would argue you would have the Kansas State High School Activities Association as being complicit in a situation like that based on how their form is set up. Dave, Would you agree with that assessment?
I think that's a very good argument, Pete.
Wow. So is there anything the state legislature can do about this form? Or, I mean, obviously they're at a session, but is there anything they should do in your estimation going forward?
Yeah, I mean, in the big picture, they're just we need massive change. Education is no longer about teaching kids how to read and write. That's been gone for a long time. We have a Department of Education that's absolutely rogue, and the State Board of Education allows it to run rogue. This is an agency that will not require districts to follow state law to spend money on kids who are academically at risk of failing. The law says spend this money to help these kids who are academically at risk, and the districts are saying, I don't want to do that. 2 audits have proven that. The Department of Education knows it. The state school board knows it. They will take no action. This has been going on since at least 2019. They won't make them follow the building needs assessment law. They will not admit that there's roughly 150,000 kids in Kansas who cannot read at grade level. They want to pretend, honest to goodness, I mean, this is like right out of The Onion, that you can't say that any kids are below grade level in Kansas because the state assessment test only measures grade level performance. So we say, all right, then, are you saying all the kids are at grade level? And they won't answer that question. They refuse to do anything to get kids educated. It's okay if it happens, that's fine, but not if we have to change our political viewpoints of what we want done.
Mm-hmm.
We've got another story coming.
I was going to say, I want to tee you up on this, Dave Traubert, with the Kansas Policy Institute. Tell me what's going on with the Department of Education and what you're learning there.
This is arguably worse than what the Athletics or the Activities Association is doing. The Department of Education annually sends out contracts. It's part of the procedure. You're going to get federal funding. You agree to the terms. They changed the anti-discrimination clause this year to say they want districts to sign the document saying they will not discriminate against anyone on the basis of gender or gender identity, in addition to sex, religion, race, and all the things that actually are covered by discrimination laws. Courts have said gender and gender identity are not covered by Title VI of the U.S. Civil Rights Act. And yet here we have the Kansas Department of Education trying to slide this past, getting school districts to sign. They say, if you don't sign this, you're not going to get your federal lunch money. Well, I mean, this is just mind-boggling. You have the U.S. Department of Ed saying, states, you have to sign certification that you won't violate U.S. civil rights. And the Kansas Department of Education and the state board couldn't figure out what to do. They just dithered and, oh my goodness, how do we do this? How do we say that, well, we won't violate the law? And then they turn around and say, yeah, we want you to kind of certify that you will violate the law.
That's exactly what's going on here.
I mean, this is, and you have state school board members sitting there watching this happen, and they're afraid to speak up.
They know it's illegal, but they don't care.
It just comes right down to it. Once you're elected to an office, the number one thing that matters is staying elected to that office, and everything else is kind of a distant thought. This is atrocious what elected officials in Kansas are allowing to happen time after time after time.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dave, I am looking forward to more reporting on that story from you guys at the Sentinel, and we'll be following, and we will talk to you next week, my man.
Yeah, it's coming up today or tomorrow. We wanted to give them a little extra time to respond just in case they were out of the office for holidays. But so far, again, nobody wants to talk.
Well, that's fair reporting. Fair reporting by you guys. Thank you, Dave. I always appreciate it.
Take care, Pete.
There you go. Dave Traubert with the Kansas Policy Institute. Great stuff. I mean, you're learning things from them that certainly Kansas City Star is not going to be writing about this. The Kansas State High School Activities Association physical evaluation form asking you about your sex at birth. Not your sex at birth. Unbelievable. Look at that. It's raining again in Kansas City. I can't believe it. Wow.
Talk about a bombshell.
Here we go. The rain is back. Hopefully this is it for a little bit. We have gotten plenty of it over the last few days. Glad you're here with us. Coming up, it is going to be a tirade Tuesday. So coming out of the holiday weekend, get the sleepies out of your eyes. Get those tirades fired up for next hour. Also, 1 hour from now, we have a giveaway to see Cody Johnson down at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena in the Ozarks. That starts today, 8:45, all week long here on KCMO Talk Radio. Next, we'll give you a Tuesday edition of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Since we were off yesterday, we'll do that next on KCMO Talk Radio. If you are needing a plumber this morning, with all the rain that we've had, hopefully not, but it can be overwhelming. What's not overwhelming is hiring the plumbing pro here in Kansas City. Since 1978, Steve and his team have been taking care of Kansas Cityans for nearly 50 years. And that's because they check off all the boxes you want a plumber to check off: reliability, professionalism, quality workmanship, transparency, and customer service. And don't just take my word for it. Look at their Google reviews. They got a 4.8 out of 5 stars with hundreds of reviews for the Plumbing Pro. They're the company that will take care of you. A lot of the other guys, have sold out. God bless them, they can, but they're not as local as they used to be. The Plumbing Pro, they are. 50 years in this town, taking care of businesses and homeowners alike all over the Kansas City metro. So give Steve and his team a call, and the easiest way to get a hold of them is theplumbingpro.com. That's theplumbingpro.com, or you can call 816-763-8200, but go to the website, theplumbingpro.com.
Call Mundo 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
Back to business this morning, 7:50 on a Tuesday, short week. Hope you had a commemorative Memorial Day weekend. Thanks for starting the week with us on KCMO. It is that time of the week. We're going to do a Tuesday edition here since we were off yesterday.
It's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly on KCMO Talk Radio. Now on 95.7 FM.
Are you guys good with this? I know it's a rainy Tuesday coming out of what was a rain-soaked Memorial Day weekend. Can I give you double the good this morning? Everyone good with that? All right, good. Thumbs up across the glass. There you go. I'm going to start off with this. Late last week, Jackson County homeowners may have missed this going into the holiday. The Missouri State Tax Commission requiring Jackson County to base its 2025 property assessments on the 2022 values. So under the order, the county can increase property values by no more than 15% from the 2022 level. And that means your 2025 assessments that are set to come out will have to be recalibrated and recalculated based on the recalibration of the 2023 assessments. Finally, Jackson County officials have agreed to the plan in writing. So this thing has gone all the way up, of course, to the state level. It has been an utter mess and an embarrassment for Jackson County, but property tax relief could be on the way, thanks to Jackson County finally agreeing in writing to comply with the Missouri State Tax Commission. And what this means exactly when it comes to your property taxes, your property values, your assessments for 2025, that all remains to be seen because those 2025 assessments were set to come out pretty soon. They're already done. So now they've got to go back and figure out 2023 with a cap of 15%, and that means they're going to have to redo 2025. So we got to get a hold on what exactly this means. We got to get a hold on what exactly this means for property owners in Jackson County, but thank goodness this took that next step late last week. So that's the good part one. Good part two. I want to double the good here on a Tuesday since we're doing a Tuesday edition of the good, the bad, and the ugly, which we usually do on Monday. Pete Hegseth gave a speech yesterday at the Arlington National Cemetery to commemorate Memorial Day. And I want to play a 1-minute clip of Pete Hegseth. It's a 6-minute speech. It's up on our social media channels, KCMO Talk Radio on X and Facebook. And it is so worth your time. It's fantastic.
He does it willingly and stoically because he loves his country, his brothers in arms, and his family. This is the story of the unknown. The story of the fallen soldier who we have gathered today to honor. It is the story of the American warrior. He answered the call, fought, and died for this republic, the ultimate sacrifice of a free people. You see, the American soldier fights not because he hates what's in front of him, but because he loves what's behind him. We honor his selfless sacrifice, his courage, his duty, and his love. As Jesus taught his disciples, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. This love is a gift given freely. And yet this gift comes with responsibility to those living. We owe a duty to those who have fallen in war. They have paid a debt we can never repay. And for we owe gratitude and remembrance.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth at Arlington National Cemetery yesterday. Amazing 6-minute speech. I would encourage you to check it out on our KCMO Talk Radio X and Facebook pages. Now, the bad from the weekend. I saw this just as kind of a footnote in the local news, but Danny Edwards Barbecue is getting set to close down by the end of the month. One of the more underrated barbecue joints in town, in my estimation, is set to shut down. What do you don't like it, John? That's fine if you don't.
I tried to go there once.
Oh, okay.
It was closed. I might forget it.
All right. That's
Too
typical.
many other options.
Typical John Anthony.
Well, look, come on, man.
When did you go?
They had
Like
banker's hours.
7 a.m. on a Tuesday?
No, man, I go down there at lunchtime one time.
You went down for lunch and it was closed?
Yep.
Oh. Okay. Well, that's
Not on a holiday.
Not on a holiday. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll give you that. Well, now it's closing for good. They opened up in 2007. But here's the twist on the story. So the current owner is this guy named Joel Bremer. He worked side by side with Edwards for 15 years before he retired. Bremer bought the restaurant from Danny Edwards in 2018, right there on, Southwest Boulevard, I guess they're on. And that was 4 years before Danny Edwards died. They were good friends. Danny wanted his friend to hold the business. Here's the problem for Joel Bremer, the current owner. The building is owned by Edwards' widow. So this guy, Joel Bremer, buys the barbecue joint that theoretically helps the widow, the eventual widow of Danny Edwards, have some money in her back pocket. And now the widow is selling the building out from underneath Joel Bremer. That's kind of a screw job right there. Let's be honest. And that kind of got buried in the KCTV5 story. Danny Edwards' widow is screwing over the guy who bought the barbecue joint from her late husband. The widow here is the bad person in the story.
It's just a unique story. I was like, oh, I guess I will never get to go there. But it wasn't because the guy running the place wanted to close down.
No, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know where I'm going to go.
Perhaps it will return somewhere else.
Yeah, and maybe they'll be open next time you show up there, John. All right. The ugly from the weekend is Scott Pelley. Scott Pelley, 60 Minutes, gives the commencement speech at Wake Forest and sounds like an all-time douchebag.
But in this moment, this morning, our sacred rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack. And insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts.
Oh, my gosh. Buck Sexton put this very well on X. The supposed titans of TV journalism are sanctimonious theater majors with mid-level IQs and world-class egos. That's Scott Pelley. Coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio, after the good, the bad, and the ugly, one political party needs $20 million for mail outreach. Let's help them at 913-408-7957. We'll do it next. Piece over the weekend dropped, and it's titled 6 Months Later. Democrats are still searching for the path forward. 6 months after President Trump swept the battleground states, the Democratic Party is still sifting through the wreckage. What a shame. What a shame.
Such a cute soundbite.
Its standing has plunged to startling new lows. 27% approval in a recent NBC News poll, the weakest in surveys dating to 1990, after a defeat that felt like both a political and cultural rejection in November. That's because it was. The New York Times adding here, communities that Democrats had come to count on for generations, including young people, black voters, and Latinos, all veered towards the right in 2024, some of them sharply. And unlike Mr. Trump's win in 2016, his victory last year could not be waved away as an outlier after he won the popular vote for the first time. So what do? Further down in the piece, this is the kicker. This is the gold mine. This is why I got to have some fun here. And I do try to give the New York Times a chance when I read this stuff. I always figure I'm digging for something good. And here's the gold mine. Democratic donors and strategists have been gathering at luxury hotels to discuss how to win back working class voters, commissioning new projects that can read like anthropological studies of people from faraway places. The New York Times is mocking them here. They're mocking them. The prospectus for one new $20 million effort, it is codenamed SAM, short for Speaking with American Men, a strategic plan, and promises investment to, quote, study the syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in these spaces. It recommends buying advertisements in video games, among other things. Above all, it urges we must shift from a moralizing tone. Okay, if you need $20 million to study why you are sucking wind with young men, then you literally, let's just start there, John. What do you say?
All over America, it'll be, damn it, Bobby, I told you not to answer the telephone. Crazy people in that video game advertisement.
That's what they're going to do with this $20 million. They are so out of touch. They create this weird strategic plan that they codename SAM, Speaking with American Men. You know how you speak with American men? Okay? Don't insult them. Don't play this game of, well, if you want to be a woman, you can. Don't also tell them that they are the problem in American culture in 2025. Why don't you start there and stop with all your dumb verbiage and your made-up words? And just drop all the nonsense. Boy, we spent the last 10 years basically attacking young men, and I don't know why they hate us.
Hey, buddy, I don't like your microaggression there.
No, I'm getting too worked up. I got to back off. It's a rainy Tuesday. But, like, if you don't understand how you got here, you're not going to understand how to solve the problem. Okay? That's number one. And when you look at how we got here, there's no doubt that Trump has an ability to connect, even though he's a wealthy billionaire from New York City. Trump has a unique ability to connect with people, more so men than women, obviously, in a way that is common sense, in a way that is relatable, it's funny, it's genuine. It's all these things that, frankly, the Democratic Party is not right now. They're appealing to the overeducated, woke, largely white constituency within their party. And that's where they're making the most gains. But when it comes to especially young men right now, they're not playing that game. You might get, Ben and Jerry's guys, like literally Ben and Jerry, the old hippies, old washed up hippies, who are all in on this, all in on what that party is selling. But young men are waking up and they're like, basically, since I've been paying attention to the news, there has been one political party that has called me basically the problem in America. And now that political party is trying to figure out how to win me back. Well, I promise you, There is not a $20 million video game campaign that is going to solve that for you. There isn't. You might think that's the case, but it's not going to happen. And young American men having alternative media, having social media, has actually been a tremendous opportunity for people to open up their eyes and look at things from a different perspective. And that has actually been something that has hurt the Democratic Party and the establishment at large. 913-408-7957. So I don't want to give them too many ideas here, but I'm happy to just give them some common sense analysis as to how they got here and how they're not going to turn the page magically by the 2026 midterms by putting up a bunch of ads on video games that they think are popular with the kids these days.
I'm surprised they're doing a study. I thought they had it all figured out. They said Tim Walz out there. He speaks the code, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
He was the guy who was going to crack the code for young men, especially white guys.
They don't need to spend this money.
Tim Walz. Another one of their great screw-ups, thinking that Tim Walz was going to be the guy that was going to be like the code cracker for young white men to vote for Kamala Harris. Tim Walz. Take the people who made these decisions, make sure they never have any power ever again in your party. That's step one. Step two is don't have Pete Buttigieg grow a beard and then just tell me that's the definition of a manly man. That's the other thing that, people aren't interested in being sold on. They're trying to jam that square peg into a round hole and make you like it. And then if you don't like it, what do they say? Well, you're a racist, you're a misogynist.
Homophobe, misogynist.
I mean, they call you every name in the book, right? They then hate you if you do not acquiesce to their demands and their view of the world. And people are over that, man. They're done. And there's not a study that's going to fix it for you guys. 913-408-7957. Let's go to Lee Summit. Bob's there. Hey, Bob, go ahead.
Oh, hey, how you doing? I wanted to comment on these Democrats and why young men can't stand these Democrats. They probably woke up one day and they saw that Biden had a bunch of weirdos in his cabinet that were walking around with dresses on and high heels and wigs, pretending to be girls. And there's still guys out there that don't like that. So that was a big turnoff for a lot of guys that woke up one day and said, "My God, what are these people doing?"
Well, that's a good, that's a direct point, Bob. Can't argue with that. It's certainly, if I'm trying to preach masculinity and preach like, "Hey, young men, it's safe to be here. Join us." Yeah, that's not exactly what I would be doing either. You're right about that. I'm glad you brought up that point as well. They are trying to sell you on this idea that the least masculine men that you know and you hang out with are the new definition of masculinity. And guess what? Most dudes, I'm just sitting here as one in my mid-30s, like, yeah, they ain't into that. They're not buying that. They don't want any part of it. And no matter how hard you try, you're not going to solve it overnight. I mean, think about some of the things that they've claimed are right-wing. Red meat. Eating red meat was like a right-wing thing for a while. Working out, right, is right-wing. What else? Oh, liking really good-looking women. That's somehow misogynistic and right-wing.
Delayed gratification. In other words, to work for something to save.
Yeah, that's true as well. Not wanting, the government to bail out your student loan debt. Mm-hmm. Somehow that's just like a right-wing trope. It's like, now we need $20 million to understand why young men can't stand us. Well, you've done it to yourselves, and it's taken you about 10 years to get here. If you think you're going to reverse the trend in a year by running some ads on, like, video games, I promise you, you're going to be sorely mistaken, especially when you keep making the same problems. There's no evidence that they're admitting to what their screw-ups have been for the last decade.
Long, long way from MTV days of 92 when Bill Clinton was one of the coolest guys on the planet.
Yes,
right.
and even Obama, right?
Yeah.
Obama was cool.
Smooth.
He was smooth. I mean, that was my first presidential election I could vote in. All the young people loved Obama. And look at what they've done to their own political party in less than 2 decades. They've destroyed it.
Well, I think Hillary's one of the better dominant
Well, yeah.
male figures, probably, for them.
Yes.
Certainly the noisiest.
Show some RESPICT.
Sorry, it's Monday.
Yeah, that's
Tuesday.
okay. That's all
Feels
right.
like Monday.
Yeah, it does. Those are the kind of mistakes that they just spent the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years making, and it will take them years to dig out of it. And I need a lot more evidence to suggest they're serious about turning the corner. Tirade Tuesday is coming up at 8:35. I know it's Tuesday. Feels like Monday. John just called it Monday, but it's Tuesday. So start getting those tirades lined up. I don't want to bomb out of a tirade Tuesday. It's the only segment that if it totally stinks, you can't blame me for. So start getting those tirades lined up. 8:35 here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. What am I hearing regarding the special session that will be announced today by Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe on the Chiefs and the Royals? We'll tell you about it coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio.
Hey, it's Kevin Kietzman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
About an hour and a half away from Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe announcing a special session in the Missouri legislature that will bring the House and the Senate back to Jeff City. And it looks like the main goal is going to be, obviously, to get funding for the Chiefs and the Royals to stay on the Missouri side of the state line. But there is a second part of this. And the second part of this is likely also going to happen. And that is getting the House in Jeff City to pass House Bill 19, which is a $500 million funding package that didn't get done ahead of the constitutionally mandated budget deadline of a couple of weeks ago. In part, what happened here in the last 2 weeks when the Senate elected not to pass funding for the Chiefs and the Royals is you had the Senate say to the House, hey, we're not doing what you want us to do with funding for the Chiefs and the Royals when you guys didn't pass $500 million in infrastructure improvements that we had passed just a few days prior. There's an ego thing here going on. State Senates do not like being bossed around by state houses. It's true at the federal level as well. The Senate is kind of the high and mighty, nose in the air crowd. The House is always kind of the more common folk, the common man. The Senate looks down on the House. That's been true since the beginning of American politics. There's 100 U.S. senators at the federal level. There's 435 House reps. Those senators view themselves as very high and mighty. Same thing plays out at the state level, right? So the Senate was not going to play ball with the House, no pun intended, when the House wouldn't pass the infrastructure funding. And plus, let's be honest, that would have put a lot of members of the House and Senate in a tough spot. If they were to go back to their districts and they were to say, hey, you mean you didn't get money for a new crime lab or a library for our little community, but you did get billionaire owners of the Chiefs and the Royals tax breaks for new stadiums? That's a really bad look, politically speaking. And I understand that. That's why they got to get both of these things done. But don't forget what Governor Mike Kehoe said on this show a week and a half ago, where he first announced this special session was coming and some of the details behind it.
I'm hopeful that they will regroup and understand this is a huge opportunity for Missouri, and we'll be calling them back in session to put this proposal before them.
So what's your timeline on calling that special session?
Obviously, we need to get something done quickly, so we're hoping sometime in early June to ask the legislature to come back to consider this, again, a massive economic development proposal for our west side of the state.
So that was Governor Mike Kehoe on this show 2 Fridays ago, and you heard it here first. So now it leads into what is the deadline. The deadline is June 30th. That's when the Star Bonds expire in Kansas. The Star Bond offer expires in Kansas. And that is going to be when Missouri has to get something on the table by. If not, you do risk the possibility of, I think, one of these teams ending up going across the state line. I don't believe both will do it. I don't think the Star Bond can fund both. I don't think the revenue can be generated for what is likely to be $5 billion at least in stadiums between both. If you were to move both across the state line, start brand new, break ground, you're probably looking at pushing $5 billion. Because if the Chiefs go to Kansas, let's be honest, if the Chiefs go to Kansas, you got to go domed. There's no point in going to Kansas and having an open-air stadium. That would be the biggest waste of all time. So if you're going domed, you're probably adding another $1 billion or so to the price tag. So figure that's 3 to 4. Royals have been in the 4. Royals have been in the at least 1, probably more like 2 ballpark. So you're looking at $5 to $6 billion. To generate the revenues you need to above current sales tax thresholds to then pay off the bonds on the back end on $6 billion. It's not the Speedway. That was $300 million. That's what, 5% of the overall number that we're talking here. So that's why it seems to me more likely that one of those teams end up across the state line if Missouri doesn't get its act together here. Now, if Missouri does, I believe both will stay. But the linchpin to all this remains what? Jackson County. Frank White. Don't know what's going on there. No one has any idea. I mean, Frank remains missing. He is MIA. I don't know, what's going on with his independent league ball team that he's coaching first base for, the Monarchs. I have no idea what's going on with them right now, but you're more likely to catch him at a Monarchs game than you are at Jackson County HQ at this point in time. So that remains the biggest hurdle, even if the state gets itself in line in the next couple of weeks. Expect that to happen with Kehoe and this Missouri legislature, possibly as early as next Monday, getting those folks back to work in Jeff City. But will both sides want to play ball? Do Republicans, here's the question for both sides, do Republicans outside of Kansas City want to help out these two sports franchises, especially if they don't get their way on some infrastructure funding? There is beef from St. Louis because there's a lot of residents in St. Louis area and politicians in St. Louis who say this state did nothing or very little for Busch Stadium when that was redone 20 years ago. They did very little for the Major League Soccer team, and we lost the Rams. So they're a little upset on that side of the state. I was talking to a couple of radio guys over there, and they're like, yeah, this is not popular in St. Louis. So those are the questions for Republicans in outstate Missouri and on the other side of the state. And will Democrats want to play ball with Kehoe after, of course, this whole abortion issue came back up in the legislature at the end of the session? And what came out of it? They're going to go back to a ballot on the issue of abortion in the state of Missouri. And that drove Democrats bonkers, of course, as you would imagine, across the entire state. They want to work with Kehoe on this issue, but are they going to tone the pound sand because of the abortion deal? That remains to be seen. Tirade Tuesday. Line them up. 913-408-7957.
KCMO, Kansas City's place to talk on 95.7 FM and 710 AM, a Cumulus media station. It's Mundo in the Morning. Now on FM at 95.7. Set a preset on your radio. KCMO Talk Radio.
I know it feels like a Monday, but it is a Tuesday morning, and that means one thing at 913-408-7957. Even I've got the Monday blues. I almost gave out the wrong number, the old number, so shame on me. But it happens. 913-408-7957.
It's time for Tirade Tuesday on 95.7 FM and 710 AM. KCMO.
How dare you?
It's morning, so it's Mundo.
Let's get them fired up. All right. It's a rainy Tuesday. You might be a little sleepy, but get on the horn. John and Mark will take care of you at 913-408-7957. That's 913-408-7957. Whatever rant you want to get off your chest on a Tuesday morning, now is the time to do it. And this segment is only as good as you make it here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM, and streaming, of course, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Let's go to Carl in Independence. Carl, what is your tirade on a Tirade Tuesday? Let her rip.
Hi, Pete. I won't go off on the TV news stations. I watch 549, and I'll flip between them because basically they're boring. And I've gone from one station to the other, and you get the exact same thing almost at the exact same time. I even flipped between two of them, and they had the exact same story, same video image, almost verbatim at the exact same time. And how many times do we see Ace Action reporters standing in front of the Kansas City police station to give an on-site report about something that happened on the other side of town and the other part earlier in the day? It's really pathetic that if you really want to know what's going on in this town, there's this morning talk show host. You may know him, but that you really find out what's going on.
Well, that's very nice of you there, Carl. I do appreciate
Such
that.
a nice man.
And thank you for the tirade. You're right, too. I mean, listen, I check out all the local TV stations to see what's going on, and I want to make sure I'm not action. I use them to see what they're doing, and you are spot on to say it is very cookie cutter, and it is highly predictable. There is nothing that will get all that controversial. Once in a while, they will, like Fox 4 with Malik Jackson and the Mayor Lucas stuff a couple of weeks ago, but that's a rarity. So we got you covered here. Thank you for that, Carl. 913-408-7957. Lines are open on a Tirade Tuesday, 913-408-7957. John and Mark will take care of you right now. Dave and Olathe, go ahead, Dave. What's your tirade?
Good morning, Pete. Love the show, but boy, am I disappointed this weekend. I was going to wash windows, and nothing is better for washing windows than newsprint. I had to buy 3 Kansas City Stars just to wash my windows because there's nothing in it.
What did that cost you? $7?
I don't even remember. I was just shocked at how thin the newspaper was.
Well, you're right. Very thin, very expensive, very overrated. So you had to buy how many? 3 of them?
I had to buy 3 just to do one level of the house.
Wow. Did you get to the second level yet?
No, there's not enough newsprint, and I've done enough donating to the Kansas City Star for the spring.
Oh, that's good. Well, you got it done. Hey, how'd you do? I mean, it was raining all weekend. You got all your windows done this weekend with this weather?
I did. I have an overhang over my windows.
Oh, wow, that's very nice. That's very nice. You know, it's funny. Thank you for that, Dave. 913-408-7957 on a Tirade Tuesday. Line them up. Get them in. We got a few minutes left for you here on KCMO Talk Radio on 95.7 FM. We went in, I guess it would have been Friday, took the girls out, ran a couple of errands, and went into a Price Chopper. Now, I don't know, I guess our Hy-Vee near us, I don't see a lot of Kansas City Stars lying around. I just don't see them. So I'm not used to seeing a physical edition of the Kansas City Star, but I walk into this Price Chopper, and the Kansas City Star is sitting out there. And it's so funny because for the first time ever, in a long time at least, I looked at this thing and I said, wow, the same exact thought as Dave. This thing is thin. And I want to say it was $2. It's like, what am I paying maybe it was more, but I was like, what am I paying $2 for on this thing? I mean, it was an embarrassment. I usually will read it to you just to goof on it, of course, online. But very rarely do I go to the physical copy or see it anywhere because it's very hard to find. But my very hard to find. But my gosh, he is spot on with that assessment and that analysis. So nice job there by Dave and Olathe on KCMO Talk Radio. I didn't see that one coming this morning, but it literally was the exact same thought that I had today, or I guess on Friday, about that newspaper and what is not in it. I mean, I can't imagine that there's much you're seeing in that paper that you haven't already learned by the next morning. So, like, what are you getting it for? And it's a fortune. I know people have tried to cancel the Kansas City Star, and they can't get out of it. They literally cannot get themselves out of the Kansas City Star, John.
It's a timeshare deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gonna have to call them office today.
Yeah. I mean, now I'm going on my own tirade about it based on what I've heard from people. But it's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing.
The text line makes a good point. You can go to the pitch for free. And it's bigger.
Yeah, but the pitch is woke.
Free, though.
Yeah.
You're going to use it.
No, go to Tony'sKansasCity.com. That's where you go. The pitch is way too woke. I don't want to go down that road. Every year they do their little awards in Kansas City for like top radio shows. It's the same like 7 woke shows in town every single time. It is like clockwork. Rick in Leavenworth, go ahead. What's your tirade, Rick?
Yes. Hey, Mundo, I am just tired of hearing about all these medications I have to take on TV. Every commercial, everything is about ED, and my pencil's still sharp. And I'm tired of hearing about all the things that are wrong with me when they're not. We need to get those off of there and get our kids outside, get adults, drinking and eating some good stuff, and move on. That's my tirade.
There you go, Rick.
Bam.
Still rocking and rolling, sharp pencil.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
Thank you, Rick.
I had just seen a meme about the last cigarette commercial on TV. What day that was, in maybe 71, and they were saying medical ads next, pharmaceuticals next.
There you go.
So we'll see what happens.
There you go. There you go. All right, Rick. I like that, buddy. I like that.
Does anything scare you off of taking one of those more than those side effects when they start reading them?
I know. And I'll tell you what, too. I think Rick just wanted to call in to brag about himself. I think that was the whole point of that call. Oh, my goodness. That's
pencil's still sharp.
Oh, my gosh. Easy, Rick.
Nothing wrong with a little bit of Heartland Men Clinic or Izervay. Nothing wrong with those guys.
Listen. We've got good partners here, but we try not to overdo it, right? TV, you can't help yourself. It's one after the other. You've got no choice. It's one after the other, after the other, after the other. We try to spread them out. We only take a certain amount for each category, and that's kind of how we do it. TV, they've got no shame. No shame whatsoever. They just continue to roll on through, and they don't care one bit. So they'll stack them up back to back to back to back to back. That's just always how they've done it on television. Jeff in Lansing, go ahead, Jeff. What's your tirade?
Ocitos makes their salsa jars too damn small. You can never get a chip in there to get anything.
You're right. I was using them over the weekend, and once you get about halfway down, you're screwed, right?
Yeah, we've been on the moon since what year? Come on now.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Let's make a jar.
There you go. That is an excellent tirade that no one's ever had on this show. I'm glad you had it there, Jeff. Nice job there, buddy. Let's go to Doc in North KC. Go ahead, Doc.
Hey there. Hey, I went to see Mission Impossible. I get up there to pay for my ticket, pull out my money clip, and the guy goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't take cash." Okay, I guess. And I go up to the concession stand, order some stuff, Pull out my money clip. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't take cash. I go, oh, okay. Well, I know a theater who does, so that's the last time I'll attempt to use cash here.
Sounds like the ballparks. Everyone's cashless ever since COVID.
Yep. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Doc. I appreciate it. Listen, I understand you want to use it. I'm not saying you shouldn't want to use it, but it's a dying breed in some cases, trying to find a place that's going to take cash. That's too bad. And that's a good tirade as well. You know what? Right now, we've got your chance to win Cody Johnson tickets. He's going to be down at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena coming up on what'll be Saturday, August 23rd. That is happening. And we've got your chance to win right now. Seventh caller, 913-408-7957. We'll be seeing Cody Johnson down in the Ozarks at a really cool and relatively new venue, Thunder Ridge Nature Arena. Seventh caller right now, 913-408-7957. Coming up, how did Mark get himself a Harvard degree? We'll tell you next. right, we got those Cody Johnson tickets all week. He'll be at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena in August on the 23rd. Who won this morning, John?
Haley and Gardner had us on. She's excited, looking forward to the show coming up on Saturday, August 23rd, Thunder Ridge Nature Arena.
Very cool. I've not been down there. I think it's only been open for a couple of years, but it looks like a great venue.
I had a friend that
down
went
there.
to the Stone show down there, loved it.
The Stones ended their tour down there.
Yeah.
Johnny Moore's paying a fortune to get these acts down there.
I think we had the Garth Brooks show a while back.
Yes.
Before then.
Yes, there was.
Country shows down there.
You're right. Good deal. Well, congratulations. Next chance tomorrow morning, 8:45 here on KCMO Talk Radio. That's great. Very cool. Now, what's also pretty cool is Mark sent me a text last night. And don't worry, Mark, I saw your text, but it was like in the middle of either dinner or trying to get the kids to bed. Oh, it was 5 p.m. That's a bad time in our house. So Mark sends me a text that he completed one of the free Harvard online courses. So, of course, you got Trump going to war with Harvard, and Mark decides he's going to get himself a free online course. So what inspired you to do this?
I couldn't sleep on Friday night, and I was scrolling through Facebook, and my friend posted a link to where you could take these free Harvard classes. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to see what it's all about, right?
Okay. What do you want to cover up that Mid-American Nazarene degree you've got, or you just want to add to
not at all. I just kind of wanted to see if I could become a Harvard student and a Harvard dropout all in the same night. So
okay.
We'll see. But yeah, I clicked on a link and signed up, used my email and everything. And it was like, oh, I could actually do this. So I click on Citizen Politics in America.
Well, that seems like a good course for a man of your stature.
Yeah, in our work, I was like, this is going to be great. So it's just basically 3, not tutorials, but lectures in video form. So I watched all of them, got through it all, did the quizzes and everything, got a 95%.
Did you really?
Passed the course.
This sounds like the DEI test that we have to take here.
That's exactly what it reminded me of. I'm like, you know what? I put it at 2 times speed. I get through it. I take the quiz, and here we go.
95%. Good job.
Thank you.
So you do listen when I'm talking for 4 hours a day.
Exactly. It's kind of just review. That's kind of what I was thinking as I was going through it. I was like, you know what? I've worked here for a little over 4 years now.
Yeah, it's been about 4 years. So how long did this take you?
So it should take people a couple of weeks or a couple of hours a day, but I did it in 2 hours.
You did it in 2 hours when you couldn't sleep on Friday night.
Yep.
And I'm looking at your screenshots you sent me here. So do you have a degree from Harvard? Or do you have what is this thing? A certificate from Harvard?
A certificate of passing the course, I guess you could say. And to actually get it sent to me, I'd have to pay a couple $100. I'm not going to do that.
So you could have a Harvard certificate that you would then hang on your wall.
Yeah.
Sent to you, but it would cost you a couple $100.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that.
Could you just print a screenshot of this thing out?
I think I could.
And then hang it on your wall?
Yeah, I might as well, right?
Yeah, it's got Harvard credit now.
Yes.
Towards his degree. Right.
Well, they're going to need that money with the way Trump's slapping them around here.
Well, that's the problem. He sends his $200. They've got his address and billing information. Suddenly, he's on the alumni list and getting a call every 3 months.
And as I was going through,
donate to the endowment.
Every time I'm going through the course and clicking next on the quiz, a pop-up comes up and they're like, you can take the full course at 30% off, $1,800 per credit or whatever it is. I'm like, no thanks.
Oh, that's where they want to get you.
Yeah, I thought me and Chris Kobach, we could be, Harvard politic buddies. There.
Yeah, you could be. Well, they're going to come after your kids next. And I know you got some smart kids there, Mark. So, your oldest is approaching high school now.
That's true. Straight A's this year, first year in middle school.
I know. She's on fire, man. Now, of course, as a white guy from Kansas, you're not getting any major scholarships where they're going to be giving you or your family like $80,000 a year in tuition.
That's true.
So they're going to want you to pay full freight. So that's where you're kind of screwed.
Which, of course, the rest of us will assume when you renege on the debt.
Yes. But
that's how it works.
No scholarships coming your way, Mark, for the kids. Just tell them that.
I'll just say take the free online courses.
Yeah, take the free next time I can't sleep at night.
Hook her up right now. Shoot.
Yeah, that could be a good on-air bit. Sign me up.
Before we get going, before she gets into 7th grade this summer, we're going to work on Harvard online.
Yeah, there you go. Now, how easy was the test? Like, what were the questions? Who was the first U.S. president? Stuff like that, or was it a little more complex?
It was multiple choice. You had about four
Choose all
options. About four
Choose all
options.
that apply.
So yeah, whenever it's apply, I'll definitely choose that one. Yeah, I went through public polling, party systems, campaigns, and interest groups, news media, and political and social movements. Those were the key
Political and social movements.
Yeah.
Ooh.
A little woke there, but not too bad.
I'm sure it was incredibly woke. A little woke. How many questions
Understatement,
about St. George Floyd did you get on that one?
Actually, none on that one.
Oh, really?
Shockingly.
Okay. All right. Wow. Well, good job. I'm glad you took that, Mark, just for the show's sake.
They saw what zip code he was in, so they give him the Caucasian edition, right?
Kansas, Harvard of the Midwest.
Yeah. Oh, man. Wow. Well, now I guess, does Mark have the most impressive college credentials of the show? Is that a fair assessment?
Seems like at this point.
I mean, you got Baker. He had Mid-America. I had Villanova. I had the Pope on my side. But now Mark's got a Harvard certification.
Wow, I went from the top to the bottom in like 1 week here.
Kietzman's going to come running in and talking about K-State, talking of K-State.
All right.
Oh, man. All right. Well, Mark, congratulations. Thanks for doing that for us.
Thank you. I'll take any and all, graduation cards.
Yeah.
And gift certificates.
Now he'll take he'll take DraftKings and FanDuel certificates.
Yes.
And
send out those announcements.
Yes.
Yep,
that's the graduation gift that Parlay Van Sickle's looking for in there. Nice job, Mark. Well done, buddy. Congratulations to our newest Harvard, not grad. What do we call you? A certifier?
Yeah, certified member.
A certified member of Harvard's online course. Nice job.
Just like a Ralphie in a Christmas story, he's got benefits and honors.
Coming up, I want to hear from those of you who work in the trades. KCTV5 had the story on the construction industry struggling to find new talent as an aging workforce begins to retire. So if this is your line of work, I want to hear from you, and we'll talk about this coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. Look at these numbers. U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says here that more than 20% of construction workers are 55 or older. As those experienced workers are set to retire, experts say the pipeline of new talent is shrinking. Well, this is a problem, and it has been for a generation now. Too many people are opting like Mark to get, a 2-hour course from Harvard and call themselves Harvard graduates than they are actually saying, I've got to get a real job. And I've got to figure out how to actually, make money for a living. I can't go to my favorite woke institution, go into the arts and sciences school, and learn absolutely nothing that applies to the real world, and then complain about it and beg one political party to bail out my student loans. People are starting to wake up, but we've done so much damage over the last generation with too many people being educated in nothing and having no discernible skills that now a lot of the people that should be in the workforce looking at these trade options, they're not there. And you can't find the workers in this line of work right now.
Yeah, I'm old enough to kind of live the paradigm shift here, if you will. When I was in high school, got to go to college, get that degree, got to go to college. Well, here I am, for what that's worth. But we get to the point where you're acting like a trade, iron workers, all the guys that go in and do that, they make more money than I make. So if I'd have known that back then, instead of following, hey, go to college thing, and been like some of my peers, I might be making a lot more money. Might even be retired by now.
You might be.
But the point would be that the business model here is kind of shifting, and we need, besides the population decline, where you just had numbers to throw at it, we now need to change our whole thought process about once you graduate high school, what do you want to do?
Yeah, but then you wouldn't be here, John.
Well, it's too late for me, but I'm just a cautionary tale. And now, to the point, my son did not go to college. He's doing very well, making more money than I ever had now. So he's right at your age, you and Mark's age.
Well, then you wouldn't have all of Kansas City hearing your one-liners. What good would that be?
Well, it served its purpose at one point, but like I say, it's shifted.
It certainly has. So, I mean, I'll tell you.
By the way, how many more of me do you want coming down the line, right?
No comment.
Yeah, right.
Leave it at that. But you look at the opportunities out there. I mean, you know this. Whether you're in the workforce in this line of work, or if you're like me and you're someone who has to hire a lot of this stuff out, because trust me, you don't want me anywhere near hammers and nails for the most part. You just want no part of it. I can do the basics, but outside of that, you got to know where your skill sets end. And I know very well when it comes to this work where my skill sets end. It's hard to find people for a lot of this stuff. So, with this being a major problem, I want to open it up to you, the folks who work in this space, what you're seeing. Because remember this as well. 20% of construction workers are 55 or older. Let's be honest. The 55-year-old who's been breaking his back for 35, 40 years is in much different physical shape. His body is a lot more wear and tear than somebody who has not been in that field of work for 35 plus years. So a 55-year-old may really be like going on 70 when you talk about the body breakdown, potentially. Not saying that's everybody, but you're seeing this especially in that line of work. Paul's on KCMO, in KCMO. Paul, what's going on? What are you seeing, my man?
Hi, good morning, Pete. I appreciate you taking my phone call. I just wanted to bring some light to what the comment that you made about a labor shortage in Kansas City. We have personally seen an increase in our membership over the last year with all the construction going on. We've been able to retain 636 new members to our organization just for the work going on. And in reality, the success of this industry is real simple. 70% of it is showing up. I know it's hard to say, but a lot of people struggle with showing up on time. The other 20% is the attitude, and the last 10% is being teachable. And that right there is the formula for anybody who wants to succeed in the trades.
I think that's true for not just your line of work. I think that's true for a lot of jobs. Showing up is sometimes half the battle, more than half the battle, as you note there, maybe 70% in your line of work. and then just doing what you're told to do in a timely fashion, like it's not incredibly difficult in many cases to get ahead. And with the shortage that you guys are seeing in that line of work, although you're growing, still, that's more than half the battle, just showing up. So do you feel like Kansas City is having a resurgence in the construction field and the trade field in general?
Yeah, to a degree, but it's all about how we promote ourselves. Like you guys said earlier, not very many people, especially when they get out of high school, look towards trades. They want to go the college route for many reasons, but they decide to go into the trade because, you're able to get into a trade where they teach you for 4 years. They'll prepare you, they'll train you, and they'll educate you, and then you'll be going out into the field. You earn money while you learn, and you pretty much technically go to a 4-year college, but you end up coming out debt free, and being able to really do a lot with the trade that you decide to go into.
Yeah. Paul, thank you. I really think, too, the high schools have got to be pushing this as well. That's got to happen.
Yeah, we're definitely in high schools. We're even going into middle schools now. Just get some exposure to these individuals and these students, the next coming up generation, and it's really been working on our behalf, and we're excited. We're excited to really see what the future holds.
That's great, Paul. Excellent call. Thank you for making it. That's fantastic. They're going into local middle schools as well. Earl's in Kearney. Hey, Earl, go ahead, my man. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete, pleasure talking with you. I really like your show and listening to it in the morning. So anyway, I'll get to the point. I've been in the trades for 29 years. Been doing plumbing, HVAC, and moved into general maintenance about 20 years ago. And I taught at KCKCC over in Kansas City, Kansas, and also the defunct Vatterott College, and have taught trades. And the biggest thing that I've seen is the public perception people have of the trades. We have been sold a bill of goods in this country that unless you graduate from high school, pursue an academic degree, and sit behind a desk for the rest of your life, you are a failure. And that is the biggest gripe that I have. Right now I'm in facilities maintenance, and I'm a maintenance guy in a big high-rise building, and I think 28 to 34 years of age is about our youngest trades guy that is in there. Everybody else is getting up there in age, and it's a problem. It is a definite problem, and public perception has to change. I'd also like to say one more thing, kind of debunk the thing about hard on your body. It can be hard on your body, but it's not what it used to be because there's a big push towards safety, thanks to our friends at OSHA. By the way, OSHA is not a small town in Wisconsin. But, yeah, OSHA and what they've been able to do and the mindset with the litigious society that we're in, we're really on a push for taking care of your body now and more about risk mitigation. So that has come into the factors as well.
That's good to know. And I will just ask you this. During your time at KCKCC, was there a pushback against people getting into that line of work, or was it encouraged?
Well, they have a trades campus that is actually on, it would be the east side of KCK, which is away from the main campus, and it's dedicated to the trades. And I'll tell you what, it is an excellent program over there. The HVAC program's excellent. They have a machine, I guess you call it a machinist program, and it's second to none. Plus the electrical program's good. They're really pushing the trades over there, and they do an outstanding job.
That's good to know.
So it's a little, yeah. So it's a smaller satellite portion of it, and they're by themselves. They also have an automotive tech section, and they try to push it there, and it's doing a really great job when I left.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that, Earl.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You as well, my man. Mike City, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, you're not factoring in that a lot of people in construction are working longer. This guy tied into something, too. It's a lot easier doing construction now than it was, a generation or two ago. They got the electric hammers. They got all this equipment to help you move things like that. And it's not as physically strenuous. I know people in construction that are in their 70s that are still working. And that is one of the other things to factor into it. But it is a good idea to get younger people involved in it. And I also go with him with the stigma about it. I think Mark Levin brought this up on his show one time, that, in his group, if somebody going into law or music or something like that, somebody becoming a welder probably make 3 times as much money, stigmatized by the community.
Yeah.
So, he does have that. But, getting back to the point, the technology and the societal thing of people not retiring anymore.
I know.
People not
I
retiring
got you.
at 65 or
Well,
you got the
and there's a
idea.
lot of reasons for that, Mike. Is it the job? Is it they need the money? Is it they like working? So let's look at this. President Trump floated out over the weekend, sending $3 billion in Harvard grants to trade schools. This came yesterday. Trump writing on Truth Social. What a great investment that would be for the USA and so badly needed, as he floated the idea of redistributing $3 billion in grant money for Harvard to trade schools. He slammed the school as very anti-Semitic in the Post, but did not delve into the specifics around any potential plan to redistribute funds, what grant money he might pull, or when the action could take place. But when you talk about what this country needs right now to continue its forward momentum, to continue its growth, do we need more funding for Harvard? Do we need billions of dollars in grant money continuing to pour into Harvard? Which, yes, there's absolute value in Harvard. We know that some of our finest business leaders come from there. Or could you take some of that money and say, you know what? What we need right now, where the demand is for workers, is in the trades. So if we're going to have government involvement in higher education, part of it, in my estimation, should be going to places of need. And clearly, based on the data, which is where we started the conversation, 20% of construction workers are 55 or older. We've got to get people into those lines of work, and we have to figure out how to do it very quickly.
The pendulum on that stigma, I think, is starting to come back the other way. Like the first caller said, if you get into the middle schools, and this is what I think the city of Kansas City should do, they have so many jobs, you should be in the public school system saying, we have these types of jobs, go into this type of training.
Yeah, I'm
Right?
good with that.
Yeah,
I think that's a fantastic
That's what we need
idea.
to do at the grassroots level.
Yeah, and that can be done immediately. It will take time to get those workers there, obviously. It's kind of like when we talk about the police department going into elementary schools and middle schools and trying to put a good face onto cops, which doesn't happen in too many corners of our society. It will take some time, but it can happen right away. And when you start telling these kids, hey, you don't have to go to college, you don't have to waste 4 years sitting in a classroom, you can start working when you get out of high school, get paid to do it, and then earn a fantastic living after a few years, you've got absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. And you don't have to turn to a life that is, riddled with crime and, viewing yourself as someone who, well, if I can't go to college, I might as well take this other path because what else am I going to do to make a buck? You kidding me? You heard from people in the last few minutes who are like, no, we're paying damn well. You'll make good money in this line of work. Trust me, even if you're, and I don't mean this even if you're just, but guys that are doing handyman work, making great money. Especially when you factor in the cash angle of it too. Let's be honest. 913-408-7957. It's 9:18. It's good to be back on a Tuesday morning on KCMO. Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, is coming up at 10. Our caller of the day at the bottom of the hour. Yesterday, I threw something up on social media. I didn't really think much of it, but it went viral. And we'll tell you what it was about next.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Pete Mundo.
Didn't think much of it. I mean, obviously had an opinion on it when I shared it on social media yesterday, but I didn't expect it to get the traction that it ended up getting. I tried to avoid most social media yesterday for the day off and the Memorial Day holiday, but I saw this post from Clay Travis, and it was a picture of the United States from the New York Times, and it shows the shift to the right that much of America experienced during the Trump era from 2016 to 2024. And you're seeing large swaths of the country moving to the right. It doesn't mean necessarily that it is a conservative area, but the shift to the right has been really big in some cases, like in Las Vegas, like in Cleveland, Ohio, Detroit, New York City, Newark, New Jersey, Miami, Florida. You see a lot of these big pockets of big red circles, and you can see this map if you can't envision this in your head. I have it up on X at Pete Mundo. I put it up yesterday. You can see it for yourself. And Clay Travis is the one who shared the picture, and I just reshared it. And I simply wrote, it's amazing to look at this map, but look at the embarrassing blue big dot in Kansas City, led by OWWs, overeducated woke whites, in Johnson County, Kansas. So one of the biggest, bluest dots in the country, which means the region has shifted to the left since 2016, is right here in Kansas City. And it's the entire metro. It's both sides of state line. Kansas City has seen one of the largest shifts from right to left, while the bulk of the country was shifting from left to right, or moving towards the right. If they were right of center, they're now further right. If they're left of center, they're more moderate. You get the point, right? But Kansas City is right up there with Atlanta. It's right up there with parts of Northern Virginia, Denver, Colorado, Seattle, Washington, as having some of the largest shifts to the left of any area in the entire country. That is a stunning, but also predictable development that we followed over the last few election cycles. I mean, look at Sharice Davids. Kevin Yoder had this thing on lockdown, 3rd District in Kansas. Sharice Davids can't lose it. This is not a swing district anymore. Let's be clear. I don't know who's going to run for the 3rd District in Kansas, but after seeing Amanda Atkins get smoked twice and Reddy also lose convincingly here last time around, I'm treating the 3rd District in Kansas going forward like I do anybody who challenges Emmanuel Cleaver. I mean, I might give him a few minutes on the show, but I am not focusing on this election come 2026 like I thought I would have 6 years ago. I mean, in 2020, we had that robust primary. Remember that Amanda Atkins, Sarah Hart-Weir was in that race, Adrian Foster. You had good people, and it was like, man, we're on top of this. And then, of course, Amanda Atkins wins the first time and gets blown out, loses again a second time, and then same thing for Reddy. This is not a swing district. And Kansas City's shift to the left as a metropolitan area is one of the most leftward shifts in all of American politics during the Trump era. The TDS in Kansas City is real, and what it's going to take is really solid leadership on the right side of the aisle that understands the makeup of the region that actually wants to win. And that doesn't mean people that like to do talk shows or people that are podcasters or people who want to be famous on social media. That's not going to win. Like, I'm not doing this show to try to help Johnson County necessarily develop its future for the Republican Party. That's not the point. This is an entertainment-based show. But for people that want to win in local politics, gosh, you need some real serious leaders who know how to win and not victim blame and not complain and not yell at the clouds, because there is so much of that going on. There's a lot of self-inflicted wounds here as well. Our caller of the day is coming up next on KCMO.
Hey, it's Kevin Kietzman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Our caller of the day tied to this story out of KU, where a trans KU student spoke out about housing policy and then was fired from his campus job. And now that student has filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court in KCK. You can't make this stuff up. So here's what happened. University of Kansas is now being sued by a former student employee who says he was fired after speaking to KCUR, your national Panhandler radio affiliate here in Kansas City, about the elimination of a gender-inclusive housing at his on-campus resident hall. So Anthony Alvarez just completed his junior year at KU. He worked as a resident assistant, an RA, as I remember calling him back in the day.
Yep.
So this guy, or I don't know, gal, I don't know what he was or is upset and was upset after KU made some changes to their gender-inclusive housing assignments. So what they said is that if you lived in this hall that he lived in, Grace Pearson Scholarship Hall, you had to go somewhere else if you wanted to be in a living situation that was more conducive to non-binary and trans residents. It's KU, okay? They weren't going to say to those who are trans or non-binary, you have nowhere to go. But they were adjusting, which living centers had which options, is the long and short of it. So this individual, who is a resident assistant, talked to KCUR. And he told KCUR back on February 27th that this issue was basically anti-trans. And KU said, yeah, you have violated your contract as an employee with us, and we're firing you. So now Anthony Alvarez is suing KU. And part of the lawsuit includes what he claims is KU violating his free speech rights. Yes, you have free speech when it comes to your country, but you do not have free speech when it comes to your employer. If I open the show today and talked about how Cumulus Media was an awful company, didn't do anything right, had no idea what they were doing, they would have every right to interrupt me mid-show, pull me off the air and say, you're done here. They have a right to do that. Now, I have a right to have that opinion, but I don't have a right to stay employed by my employer. That's not free speech. To trash your employer and say, I demand you keep me employed because I have free speech rights. Yes, you can go out on the street corner and I can say whatever I want to say. They don't have to keep paying me after I trash them. That's not free speech. So this lawsuit should go absolutely nowhere. This kid at KU should try to spend his senior year learning something about law that might do him or her some good as they
find out how much it costs.
Yeah. Yeah, or do that. Or just take a course at Harvard online for 2 hours like Mark did. That could work as well. Might learn a thing or two doing it that way. But clearly, this person has no idea where free speech ends and where it begins when it comes to your employer. It doesn't work. And this conversation led to our caller of the day on KCMO.
Hello? It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day. On KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7.
Let's go to KCK. Ashley is there. Hey, Ashley, you're on KCMO. Good morning.
Hey, this is just typical leftist behavior. No matter what we do to try to appease them, it's never going to work because they want to live their lives angry. And it's just going to be the way that it is. It's why people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton still have a job. It's why kids like this are just going to keep living their lives. And the sooner that we realize it and the sooner that the left and actual logical people on the left, who there actually are a few, I've had conversations with them, realize it and start turning away from this woke behavior, the better off that we are going to be. If not, if these people get control, it's going to be the demise of our country. They have to have a reason to be angry no matter what you do to try to appease these people. Have a gender-neutral bathroom, change the rules in the dorm. It's never going to be enough. You give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. It's just nothing is going to work for them, and it's absolutely ridiculous. But this is the way they can stay in power because they keep their constituency angry. And that's all that they're going to do.
There you go, Ashley, our caller of the day on KCMO Talk Radio. And this is hilarious, too, in the lawsuit. According to the lawsuit, writes the Kansas City, one day after receiving a letter that said Alvarez had 3 days to appeal the probation decision, he received a separate letter informing him that he had been terminated effective immediately. In addition to losing his salary, Alvarez was allegedly told he would lose his dorm room in Grace Pearson and his university meal plan, which was tied to being a resident assistant. So he's suing to get his meal plan back. Dude, don't trash your employer, and you would have never had this problem to begin with. Is there going to be a march on the plaza for Anthony Alvarez by the end of the week? Is he going to be like a household name here locally at some point? Of course, there are organizations that are condemning KU. On Friday, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, FIRE, as they call themselves, sent a letter to KU condemning its decision to terminate Alvarez. Anthony Alvarez was unfairly punished for speaking to the media about an issue he cares deeply about in a personal capacity. That's not the point.
He cares deeply in a personal capacity. I was confused. I thought he was just running his mouth.
Oh, man, I love how, these people are freaking out. They're like, Trump's going to obviously end all of our rights and our free speech is going down the tubes. And now they're actually met at one of the wokest institutions in not just the region, but the entire country. And this is where a school like KU has got to realize what's going on here. You are never sufficiently woke enough. You will never meet the needs of the craziest of the crazy. Never. They will always come after you, no matter how much you try to appease. You can't win. And that was Ashley's point. The sooner that you realize this is one big grift, whether it's, as she mentioned, whether it's Al Sharpton.
Show some R-E-S-P-I-C-T.
It doesn't. The entire Black Lives Matter movement was one big grift as well. I mean, you had people running those operations, buying second, third homes for millions of dollars, doing absolutely nothing with the millions they raised from private Americans in corporate America. But that's the beauty of the grift. It never ends. They don't want to actually solve the problems they insist they want to solve, because if they solve the problems, they've got no way to make a buck and be a victim. So, and if you're a corporation, if you're a major institution, the sooner you realize the way the game is being played, the more peace you're going to have.
That's why we have plus at the end of the string of the alphabet letters. They're just running out. It's kind of like the hurricane names. We've tapped them all.
Yeah, but the hurricane names, at least in the hurricane names, they start over at the beginning of the alphabet every year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you've got options there. But in this case, you're right. They're just biding time.
TIAQ plus. It's like that clears everybody. You're under plus.
Yeah. We're going to be, moving alphabet pretty soon here, and that's what's coming up.
Sigma Alpha Rho.
Yeah. Next on KCMO, we'll wrap up the show with this. Kansas City Star had the headline piece this morning. Let me see if it's still up there. No, it's not the headline piece. They're big and chewy. Missouri Village revives popular testicle festival. It's good to hear somebody's got some nuts around the Kansas City Star. We'll get to it to wrap up the show next.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM.
Getting a little nutty at the Kansas City Star. Kick off the new week on KCMO. Their headline piece this morning when I got to the office was this: they're not big and chewy. Missouri Village revives popular testicle festival. Written by a Lisa Gutierrez. Every summer for more than 20 years, hordes of people flocked from nearby counties and crossed state lines to the tiny village of Olean, Missouri, where they waited in long lines to buy hot, crunchy, freshly fried nuts. The testicle kind, writes the Star.
What varieties?
Well, here we go.
Yeah.
They're called turkey fries.
Had them?
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've done Rocky Mountain oysters. I have not had the turkey fries.
All right. I would be less tempted to try the ones you did. The ones I had taste like chicken.
Okay.
And they go with beer. So that's all part of it.
So nuts and beer, what a combo.
Yeah. Well, the more of them you go, hey, that wasn't bad. Once you do the first one, it's like, all right, look at me. I'm going to do another one.
You got to have beer with them. Yeah, you got to be drinking
well, it's
with
just
them.
part and parcel.
It's a mental game, too, as much as anything else,
Yes.
you know? Yeah, the Rocky Mountain oysters I first heard about when I was in Northwest
Is that
Oklahoma.
a one-bite proposition?
It depends.
Okay.
Depends.
That's what I thought.
Depends how manly those things are,
Right.
So the festival roared back to life last summer thanks to a local restaurant owner, Ronna Kerr, who picked up the reins and threw a new and improved festival that drew more than 4,000 testy tasters to a town of 128 residents.
Well, if they ran out, they'd be testy. I'm sure. When you got your heart set on that.
I know. They had bikers from Wisconsin showing up here and looking to get involved with the Testicle Festival, as it's called. So credit to this local business owner for reviving the annual event. And you have these events that happen all over the country. In Deerfield, Michigan, they just hosted their 24th Testicle Festival, serving up deep-fried bull nuts with chicken, gizzards, and other side dishes. At the annual Testicle Festival in Watsonville, California last year, visitors plowed through plates of bull testicles and then voted on their favorite Rocky Mountain oyster side dish.
Say, where are you going? What competition you entering this week, Dan? I've mixed a mean nut.
I haven't missed it in 24 years. I'm missing it now. Let's go, kids. Get in the car. We're all going.
Basically, I've had them fried, maybe the same for you, but I don't know if there's a connoisseur thing of smoking them, et cetera.
I don't know.
I would stick to the fried.
I would as well. It's hard to screw it up if it's fried, right? Rocky Mountain oysters are a concession stand staple at the home of the Colorado Rockies at Coors Field, which is tagged as the best Major League Baseball stadium for unconventional food. They got to focus more on the baseball team. They're like 9-44 this year.
Yeah, go figure in Colorado, huh?
Yeah. Too many nuts going on out there in Denver. I guess.
Playing with your food.
Yeah. So last year, at the one here in Missouri that they have revived in Olean, Missouri, they offered bull and turkey testicles, but this year they are going exclusively with turkey.
All right.
The bull is more chewy, according to sources. Turkeys taste kind of like gizzard. They're not big and chewy. So people splash them with hot sauce and ketchup, or they just shove them in their mouths. Yeah, it all works. Serve them at about $7 per serving. So this was the headline piece at the Kansas City Star. I just sitting here, I'm like, so this is actually great humor. I actually give the Kansas City Star some credit for writing this, and the piece is actually written somewhat tongue-in-cheek. I'm just fascinated by the fact that they thought coming out of the holiday weekend, this was the thing that they needed to highlight. This was the story that was the lead piece on their homepage this morning, and right now, it's story number 2. I don't know if I love it or I hate it, but I give them some credit for having fun with it, I guess, and highlighting a local small town here in Missouri that is about, it looks like it's about 2 hours east-northeast of the Kansas City area.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not the only one in the state, but it's one of the more popular ones, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when your population is 114 and you're bringing thousands of people to your town,
right.
It's a big freaking deal, right? So there you go. That's going on June the 7th. I'm going to be out of town. Otherwise, no, let's be honest, I wouldn't go. But I'm just glad the Kansas City Star is interested in actually writing about something or somebody involving testicles, because they're not big on that, it seems like. Unless you're, of course, a guy who chops off your testicles, then they love writing about you. They're really fascinated by you in that case.
It would have been deleted from spell check by now, I would have thought.
You're right. I'll leave you with this on a Tuesday morning, and that is Pete Hegseth's speech. If you didn't hear it yesterday, he did an outstanding job. We shared this on our KCMO Talk Radio X page and Facebook page. His comments from Arlington National Cemetery yesterday to commemorate those who sacrificed it all on Memorial Day. Here is the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, yesterday.
He does it willingly and stoically because he loves his country, his brothers in arms, and his family. This is the story of the unknown, the story of the fallen soldier who we have gathered today to honor. It is the story of the American warrior. He answered the call, fought, and died for this republic, the ultimate sacrifice of a free people. You see, the American soldier fights not because what's in front of him, but because he loves what's behind him. We honor his selfless sacrifice, his courage, his duty, and his love. As Jesus taught his disciples, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. This love is a gift given freely, and yet this gift comes with responsibility to those living. We owe a duty to those who have fallen in war. They have paid a debt we can never repay, and for that, we owe gratitude and remembrance.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth yesterday at Arlington National Cemetery on Memorial Day. Spot on. If you missed the speech, it is worth your time. It is 6 minutes. You can find it on the KCMO Talk Radio X and Facebook pages. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. The rain will move out this afternoon. Kietzman Uncanceled is next.